Sifu Raphael is the founder and host of Coaching Call, Heroes Rising, The Seer Show, and New Tip Daily. He works with individuals, groups, and businesses and helps them find clarity, purpose, and understanding of who they really are in business and personal life. Sifu Raphael has used his skills to develop a variety of multifaceted businesses in the martial arts and fitness industries. He owns and operates a 10,000 square foot martial arts and fitness facility in New York. Jose Escobar is an award-winning, nationally recognized personal development speaker, published author, and sales professional. He leads compelling, high-level communities consisting of entrepreneurs and advanced leaders through his two business models, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf and the Connected Leaders Academy. He is also the co-host of Heroes Rising.
Happy Friday, Dr. Andrea. Thank you so much for co-hosting with me today. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and I'm so pleased to be with you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is. And, I'm super excited that we have two really exceptional guests who are going to be coming on. So why don't we go ahead and bring them on, and then we will say a quick hello. Hello, Hunter. Hello, Victoria. How are you?
Hey, what's happening?
And excellent. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we're talking about snow and weather and all these different things. No matter what, you guys showed up. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kick off the show by mentioning a person that I recently met, and I'm thrilled that I did. Victoria, you told me you have your book coming out February 2nd, but it was released earlier. So congratulations. We definitely want to hear about your book, but let me tell people a tiny little bit about you, what I've gathered. You are a 20-year plus corporate executive. You've been on the board, you've been a director, #1 selling author, and professional speaker. You've been nicknamed the turnaround queen. I want to know more about that. And the CEO whisperer by former colleagues and employers. Victoria, you have inspired and empowered teams and clients to change mindsets and drive growth in business, leadership, and culture. My goodness, I am so thrilled that we are connected. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Well, here's the book, and this is the author's copy because it was supposed to be released later, but my distributor went early. I'm currently in career transition, and I do not do idle well. So I decided to write not one, but two books. So there'll be another one that comes out in the summer. This one is on personal branding, which is one of the things I attribute much of my career success to. There's a multitude of things I attribute it to, but the strength of my personal brand being incredibly intentional around building it and the network associated with it. When I was working for IBM, LinkedIn ranked me as IBM's #1 social seller worldwide. And so IBM asked me to develop training for all of its executives on how to build their own brands. And that sort of began the foray into doing it on a much broader stage, both literally and figuratively, including from a public speaking standpoint. And I see many people get it wrong or sort of stall at only one part of what I believe is a multifaceted foundation that's required for personal brand.
Love it. Love it. When we consider all that you've done, the fact that you wrote 2 books, not one, and you just went for it, right? What is it about, if you think about human leadership, which is something that I know you're passionate about as well, what is it about that has helped you in becoming the person that you are?
The second book, interestingly, is its title is Whole Human Leader, and that's because I've evolved to become much more of that type of leader, in large part because I made mistakes. I became an executive. As you read out my bio, it makes me feel really old when you say 20 plus years. Yes, I became a C-suite executive. I became the chief operating officer for a large private outsourcing company at age 24, and as a result of lots of insecurity around that very big stretch role for me. Although I had much work experience and leadership experience at that point, stepping into a role where it was a stretch role for me. I was the youngest by at least 2 decades, and I was the only woman at the table. I felt like I needed to show up in a very particular way. Walls around me, wearing a mask of all business all the time. I'm not going to show you emotion. I'm not going to be vulnerable. So I'm happy that you read out the new monikers or nicknames I have, but the one I needed to shed and leave behind was the Iron Maiden. And that's because very effective at delivering business results. But I think my team achieved them probably a little bit more out of fear than followership. I was very good at performance management. And so I needed to learn a very different way of leadership. And it's innately who I am. I was just afraid to show up. And so for me, whole human leadership means recognizing the humanity in us as leaders and the teams that we're leading, that we don't get to leave our lived experiences behind us when we show up to the workplace, or even the really horrible weekend we might have had, or the circumstances that are going on. So recognizing that and creating space for that. It also means, leader, that we show up with courage to do the right thing, to be bold and challenge the status quo. Means that we need to be vulnerable, and so show emotion. That builds trust and connection. And we know that people they like, they trust, and they want to do business with, and that people don't leave companies, they leave leaders. And then another part of that is around authenticity in every way. We walk the talk consistently, that we're transparent in our communications. And there's much more to whole human leadership, but those I'd say are sort of the key nuggets. And so for me, I had to pivot because perception is reality. And there was a horrible perception around how I was showing up, and I was leading. And so I've had failure, and I'm happy to share that with people now. So hopefully they don't make some of those same mistakes.
Wow. Powerful. When you consider the fact that you want to help people not to make the mistakes that you probably learned so many valuable lessons from, right?
I did. It, starting to do things differently was not comfortable. And I, often tell people that if you're not leaning into your discomfort, growth and opportunity will not come. And so when I started to do that, again, uncomfortable, even me, I'm like so A-type. I was running into a meeting, jumping right into the agenda, being all business all the time, even being intentional to go, Vic, take the first 5 minutes of the meeting, talk about their weekend, talk about something personal, learn something. And when I started to do that, the power I had in what I learned in the difference in the type of working relationships I had with people, building the followership that I now have, that as I leave one company and go to the next, people want to come with. That's transformative. And the kind of leadership I leaned into in terms of, how I coached and develop others, looking for potential in people. I'm also a massive advocate around diversity, equity, inclusion. And so all of those things combined, whereas I would have viewed success in my 20s as gaining more responsibility, a bigger title, more compensation, it completely shifted to being much more around leadership and impact and helping others on their career journey.
Powerful when you consider the connections and that people want to follow you. It's because you made them feel something that a lot of leaders don't, right? And it's called being special, right? When we can take a person and we make them feel that they've been heard, that we care about who they are. They're not just a team member. They're an individual. They're a person. I think that's why anybody would want to follow if you make them feel that way, right?
Thank you. Yeah, it was interesting. Even on LinkedIn yesterday, there was a woman who worked for me 10 years ago, and she shared a story around how in one of our first meetings, she said, look, I've never gotten anything less than exceeds expectation on my performance reviews. And I didn't remember completely this, but reading it last night, she said that I said, I've never given, it's not true, I've never given an exceeds expectation, but it's very difficult to get that for me. I'm constantly challenging people. And she said she'd never heard that before. So 10 years later, I am, still, although we haven't worked together for a number of years, one of the greatest leaders that she's had who's challenged her. I like to describe myself as tough but fair. And the toughness is just that I set a really high bar, not just for my team, but for myself as well. I walk walk the walk with them. And so it's nuggets like that and that coming back to me that goes, this is why I do what I do.
Mm, mm. So you have people reaching out to you 10 years after you've made an impact on them. Wow, that speaks volumes. How did that, besides feeling gratification, what was there a thought when that came through that you said, I was doing something really important back then? Does that help you understand that everything that you've done up to this point has been meant for a reason, that you have a purpose?
Absolutely. I live my life with great intention and purpose. I'm very clear on my why. I know what I want my legacy to be, and it's not going to be the sales and revenue and profitability I've put on the board from a corporate perspective. It is going to be stories like that and how I've helped others, not just in the workplace. Quite honestly, for me, it's also about the community I live in and the world at large. But hearing those things and staying connected, that's one thing that's so important. And I see so many people when we talk about networking. For me, it's staying consistently engaged with my network, and not just the clients or people that could potentially hire me, everyone in my network. So I'm really proud that 10 years later, she's making a post about me and the impact I've had in her life. Or another man that I can think of that actually we're now connected on Facebook, and this relationship goes back 25 years. And I gave him, for me, he was one of the first examples of me taking an unseen employee or someone who didn't have necessarily the requisite skills on paper, but I saw amazing potential and some skills that couldn't be taught. And I helped coach him and bridge him. And now he's about to retire from the second half of his career in a field that I helped put him on the path to. That's the stuff that is just like so impactful. And those are all some of the things in which I would want to be known for.
You have growth eyes. I'm going to call them that, because you saw the potential in this human being. And for you, 25 years, and now he's retiring from that position. Wow, that is powerful. I know I'm asking all the questions, but Dr. Andrea, you're welcome to come in. And I know that we have so many questions for you, Victoria, because you are really navigating, if you will, the depths of bringing someone to find their own path, to helping and guiding people. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I'll jump in then. So, when you had mentioned that at one point realizing that you were afraid or had that fear, do you remember back to when you became aware that that was happening for you before you actually made the jump and overcame that and moved forward into the person that you wanted to be?
I don't think, Andrea, that I knew it until there were two things that happened. And so one, I learned that nickname, and that didn't initially cause me to like look at the woman that stared back at me in the mirror like as harshly as I needed to. It came a couple of months later, and I was having a conversation with a colleague at work, and we were talking about our weekends. And I said I'd seen some movie, I don't even remember what it was, but that I was bawling. I was in the theater and I didn't have like enough of those little tiny napkins they give you and no Kleenex. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, Vic, she's like, I thought you'd be the type of person who laughed at people who cried at movies. And that crushed me because that it's not innately who I am. So Turtle, which is a tattoo my best friend and I share because she gave me that nickname. Nothing to do with my pace because I'm the opposite of that, but more to do with very tough exterior. I come from significant trauma and adversity in my youth, and it's allowed me to be incredibly resilient. But inside, I'm all soft and marshmallowy, right? Like I cry at the Humane Society commercials or that movie that I saw. It was then that I knew that I was showing up in a way I thought I had to. In part, some of it was protectionism. Some of that trauma and adversity in my youth, I put walls up to protect myself. But it was also because it was what I saw in business from others. And I thought that's what I needed to do. And I didn't want anyone questioning me as a young female leader at the table. And so it was the combination of those two pieces of feedback or like in your face views of me I was like, okay, I knew what I was doing, but I thought it was appropriate. And then I realized like this is not. So that was the moment for me to do significant inward self-reflection and great awareness, and then start to model very different thinking, language, behavior outwardly.
And how did people respond to that? I have my own experiences how when I realized how things were, how I changed and how people responded to it. Would love to hear how people responded.
It well, actually, I'm fortunate that I actually ended up, when I learned this, I think I was either pregnant or so I think I went out on like maternity leave and came back. And so I had a bit of space, and at the time in the contact center environment, there's significant turnover. So I had lots of new people who didn't know the old Victoria. So it was easier. And then probably less than a year later, I shifted. And so that was a great opportunity for me to do a hard reset, in terms of how I was going to show up as this leader, new in this organization. Otherwise, it would have been, I would have continued down that path, but and hard pivot for them. But I think they probably would have done this like double tick, like who's this person that that's shown up here. So the move made it a lot easier.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great stuff for sure. So we're going to move on. I don't need an introduction. I think, Sifu means teacher in Chinese. When we consider what I bring to the table, it's different a little bit than most people, because I like to fight. I'll be honest with you. I like to fight, but I don't like to get hit. So then I've learned to fight smart. So when we consider fighting smart, what I want to share with you today is your intentions, right? I want to talk about the intentions of your communication today. I would like to share 7 tips on how you can set your intentions to be a better communicator. So I'll go. Yes, go for it.
So since we know your intentions, those who may be watching the show for the first time may not realize that you're the founder of 5 unique shows. You're a fitness and martial arts professional, a solutions expert, executive coach, head instructor at the Max Martial Arts and Fitness Center in New York. And your purpose is to unite these like-minded individuals to create this new possibility and impact in this world that we live in, and how you show.
I think we lost Andrea for a second. But thank you, Andrea. And when you do, we did lose her for a sec. But
February, just before Valentine's Day on the 10th in New York. This is beautiful. So people who understand who you are and what you do then can now really see why you're setting your intentions and communication, why that is so impactful to you.
Thank you. You might not realize it, but we lost you for a short second too.
I did not know. So hopefully you just assumed and fit in there that you were just excellent and amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah. So when we set our intentions to communicate better, I do have 7 things that you can consider when you communicate. So one is message, the clarity of your message, who your audience is, who and how you deliver your message, right? And the stories that you may want to tell. And then also the media. How do you use the media? And 7 is your engagement. So let me go back to everything that is going to help you set your intentions. So message, I believe, is probably the most important one. When you have your intentions of what message are you portraying, who are you going to be telling this message to? So whether you're on a public stage, you're talking one-on-one, you're talking in a classroom setting, or even if you're in a fight, right? So when we consider the message that we are bringing to people, the delivery of that message, the pauses, the way you deliver it, the intention, the tonality, the way we communicate is going to allow your message to be interpreted the way you hopefully want it to be interpreted. Because a lot of times you will, and I'm sure all of us have been somewhere and we see somebody do a speech. Or like Victoria, we're in a movie theater and we see somebody next to us crying and we're like, why are you crying? Meanwhile, they understood that message differently. So the clarity of your message is number two, is how clear do you want to be with the messages that you are delivering? So the intention is, what message do I have to give? How do I want to give it? And how clear am I being? You ever see two people arguing about the same thing? Or if you ask a police officer, you have 7 witnesses, what did they see? He goes, well, they saw 7 different things. And it's the perception that we have with our eyes, with our ears, and even with our thoughts, because we may think that somebody said something, we interpreted it a certain way. But I think that when we want to set our intentions to speak clearly to someone, we need to be on target. What is it that we want them to walk away with? What is the message I'm trying to deliver? And then when you consider everything, the whole thing is, who's your audience? For example, it's very interesting to me because I will have several different audiences I speak to on a regular basis. So a lot of times I may be speaking to professionals, I might be speaking to coaches, entrepreneurs, business people. And then later on in the afternoon, I go and I'm teaching 5-year-olds. And the message and the way I speak to them, it has to be way different than if I'm talking to an entrepreneur about helping them with their business, or if I'm speaking to somebody who wants to learn more about communication. And then later on, now I'm talking to teenagers. And those teenagers don't want me to talk to them like I do to a 5-year-old, right? They don't want that. So knowing who your audience is probably the most important thing when you have a message and how you deliver that message. And then the other thing that we need to consider, I'm going to call this one number 4, is how you deliver the message. The way you speak, the tonality, the speed. For example, I was in a communication course, and I got to tell you, I was very intrigued by the instructor, but I had trouble understanding him because English was not his native language. So some of his words were not clear enough, but and I know that if he slowed down, it would have been easy for me to understand him. But he was speaking as if it was his native tongue, and he was flying, where I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. The delivery of your message to you is clear, but to your audience, which is me at that point, was not. So we need to consider who your audience is. The pace of your message is important so that the people who are going to be listening to it can understand. And one of the most important things I always say is ask one simple question. Do you understand what I'm saying? A lot of people forget that part. And then my favorite, and when we consider that we want to deliver a message, do you use stories? Because if you come across somebody who is speaking and they are talking numbers, and they just go, well, today's episode or today's story is that we're not making enough money, we're doing this, we're doing that, and they give you a bunch of numbers. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm not a numbers guy. And then what winds up happening, someone else comes and maybe tells you about the numbers, but they put a story behind it. And they say, if we take 5 people and they do this, and we take those 5 people and they interjected 30 more people. So now the numbers start to make sense, and you can tie them back because there was a story behind it. So stories have a great, powerful I'm going to say meat to the story, to the message, right? They really tie a message together when you can bring a story, but not a story that's drawn out, something that's going to keep somebody engaged and follow along. And then the other thing is when we set our intentions, if we want to communicate with somebody, is are we using media, images, pictures? Even if I want to talk to you about a bottle that I'm drinking from and I tell you all about it, that's cool. But until I show it to you, you won't understand that this is a thermo flask. This company's not paying me, by the way, but it keeps my water cold or it keeps my coffee hot. So, but if I didn't show it to you, you might not have an idea of what it looks like. And even if I tell you about the color, you won't know the richness of the color. So stories are going to help, but the image, the media we use is really important. And then the engagement. How do we engage with our audience? What is it that we're saying to them to pull them in, to follow that story, to listen to the message? And when they walk away, they're going to remember. They're going to remember the message. So that's how we set our intentions to communicate better, by understanding first the message we want to deliver, and second, to make sure it's delivered the way you want it to be. I'm going to give you a bonus one, okay? Who likes bonuses? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. Um, location. Location. To me, location is important because if I am speaking in front of 50 people, 500 people, or 5 people, or make it 1 person, the pitch of my voice, the speed of my voice, am I using a microphone? I was I did a speech not too long ago, and it was 50 executives, and they were standing, clapping. I had them moving, the whole deal. Then there was another gentleman who came up, and great topic, but there was a person in the second row. After he was done, I was in the back at this point. He came over, and I heard him asking another person. I was sitting right there. I could barely hear him. I don't know exactly what he was talking. So your location will make it so that you intentionally communicate, not with the 2 people in front of you, if there's 50, but with everyone. Can you imagine going to a concert? Billy Joel, anybody, Bon Jovi, anybody, Michael Jackson when he was alive. What if they didn't use microphones and all you try to hear, and you're all the way in the back and you're trying to hear the music? You never will. This is why we need to use the tools and know your location. So with that in mind, remember, you want to communicate with intention so that people do know what you're talking about and there's clarity in your message. Thank you guys for allowing me to share that little bit of tip with you. Any questions?
Hunter, Victoria, do you have any questions for Sifu Raphael?
No, I love it. I think the steps are bang on. I agree. And you and I share a word. We both intention, very much so. I think, as a speaker myself, so much of it resonates with, how I try and be effective in mine. So I think it's super helpful. I'm sure the audience listening will have gained much from it.
Yeah, I got to keep that in mind because with my Marine Corps background, sometimes I tend to, my tonality and everything is very direct and straightforward. So that's something I need to work on. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for serving, by the way. I appreciate you so much. I want to talk to you guys right now about my co-host today. And thank you so much, Dr. Andrea, for coming in and being here with us. I love this part. Also known as the lady in red. Is she wearing red right now? I think she is. I love it. Lady in red, your personal dream maker. Her global influence is your advantage to having been featured She's been featured in over 2,500 radio shows and shared stages with legends like Sir Anthony Hopkins. Wow, that is huge. From the deserts of Dubai to the castles of Germany, for corporations like Sony, Google, she knows how to make your presence resonate worldwide. Imagine having an award-winning international publicity and business consultant backed by neuroscience expertise dedicated to catapulting your career, brand, or vision to new heights. Wow, I am just thrilled to be here. Thank you, Dr. Andrea, for being here with us.
Well, thank you so much. I had a little giggle because how you talk and your presence and how you are, it's very calming. And because I am a neuroscientist, that it's very hypnotic, and your languaging and I'm like this all the time. I like talk fast, I move fast, I do everything fast. And so, and I knew coming on, I'm like, because I'm like, your listeners may not be used to me because I come at you like a fire hydrant.
We like that too. We like that
Yeah,
too.
it's very, very fun. So, would you like me now to go ahead and introduce Hunter, and then we'll circle back if we have time for me to share?
I think I want to hear what you have, and then we're going to have Hunter.
Awesome. All right.
And
All right.
then,
The teaser is Hunter's coming up after me. All right. Well, being a neuroscientist is really interesting. So I come from a background where I started in law enforcement, and I started in law enforcement probably because I had an interesting childhood. Only child. My only friends were books. We didn't live around other children. So when I wasn't in school, that's what I had for, companionship were stories and characters in books. And that led me to be, very intelligent because I read so much. One of the things that I longed for was this connection with other people. So being in law enforcement was an easy move because I really wanted to help people find this opportunity to have good lives and good families. And that was based on the fact that my dad can be extremely, extremely loving. And on the flip side, not so much. He was quick to anger, used words and fists as a way to communicate, which could be very, very challenging for me growing up. And that was I guess now we could refer to it as a trauma that I grew up with. So criminal justice and law enforcement, super loved it. From there, I created a relationship business where I worked with people to have really beautiful relationships, was trained in neurofeedback and biofeedback. However, there was still something missing, and that was I loved business. I loved getting excited and talking to creators and visionaries and helping them achieve what they wanted to achieve. So what was interesting is people would come to me about their relationship challenges, their intimacy challenges. And then because I was in law enforcement, people knew they could trust me. So I started helping athletes and celebrities and all these people I can't tell you I worked for because they don't want you to know that I worked for them on the things that we talked about. But what was really cool is they said, Andrea, would you help us within our corporations? Because there's things going on there. And so it just brought me into a different world. And that's one of the things I love for clients to see is that you don't have to be locked into one thing to have it forecasts into another. So I talked about relationships and sexuality, and then started talking to businesses about a conflict resolution and connection and a different way of expressing themselves within a business. And all the time I was still using neurofeedback and biofeedback unbeknownst to them. I didn't tell them, but I could see different things in their demeanor or the way they held different muscles in their face, things that you normally would see with biofeedback by having like little pads and sensors to a computer that would show that the person was holding tension in their jaw or in their forehead. And we were able to, I was able to pick up on those subtleties. That also comes from law enforcement, from studying forensic profiling. There's just a different way that people show up. Like we talked about earlier, you may be one way and show up another way. So who is that real person deep and in there? And how do we get that person person out. When we're able to do that, they just show up so much better and they're more satisfied in their job. They express themselves differently. The communication is so much better. And that wasn't enough for me again. So that was the red carpet connection. And then the third part was being okay with yourself. And that's where the subconscious connection, my third business, came to play, where I realized that the things that happened in my life, the stories I heard, the ways I was told to behave, and how I was taught to show up didn't have to be me anymore. I was now an adult with the permission to do what I wanted, and being able to incorporate that into the world and be able to express to people that when you're okay with you, kind of doesn't really matter what other people say or do. It doesn't affect you the same. So for clients, being able to help them get those emotions out of the way, trauma from the past, to be able to learn the lessons from them and to be able to show up differently, all of a sudden, fear is like unnecessary because you can step into this amazing world. So that's where I've come full circle. And it's so exciting to be able to share that and to say that, I'm excited about change, excited about how people show up and how they feel. And if, let's see, Saifu, you got to give me a hands up because I'm not managing my own time here.
You're doing phenomenal. And my gosh, I know Victoria's over there smiling. She's with you all the way. I can see it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Stop. Don't
It's so cool.
stop.
Okay, cool. So let me show people a little exercise. So normally I would use like my hand, but we don't have room to get our arm in here. So we'll just do it with our heads. So I want everybody to look forward and then just turn your head to the right comfortably and easily. And then when you get to a comfortable stopping spot, make a point of where you just looked at. And I want you now to turn around to the front. And be aware, just kind of look again where you were and be aware of how much, if this, let's say the room around you is a whole pie, how much were you able to see comfortably and what was in your world? I want you to think of that's your possibilities. So that's your belief, your mind. By the way, how much you turned is the belief that you had in your head. Even though you didn't say, I have a belief on how much I can turn my head, we have a belief on how much we can turn our head. It's just there based on what we have around us and what our mind believes. And in that little triangle of space that we saw, imagine that's the possibilities of what you can have in your life. But imagine for yourself that we have this whole 360 degrees around it. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm like, is it 360? I want to make it 385. I would like to make my circle even bigger. If we were to now think of the possibilities of all the things that you could do in your business, all the dreams that we could make true. If I could bring to you your fifth grade or 5-year-old birthday cake and you blew out the candle, and this time you didn't have to keep your wish a secret. No, what if instead you told everyone your wish, and everybody here, everybody listening, and all the people in your world helped your wishes come true? How much further could those possibilities be? So keeping that in mind, close your eyes and comfortably and easily turn your head to the right. Comfortably and easily knowing that you have this possibility to turn your head practically full circle like an owl. And when you get to a spot that feels easy and it's just a little push but not uncomfortable, open your eyes and look at what you're looking at now. How much further is the possibilities for you in your life? Well, we just have to take action on them, and then you can have what you want. So that's what I do. I expand your horizons. I make your dreams come true with you. I'm not your fairy godmother and go bink and they just happen, but we work together to make the results possible, bigger than you ever dared to desire. So that's me, Dr. Andrea Adams Miller, the Red Carpet Connection. And I love people. I'm about relationship capital, and I have a $15 billion Rolodex. And believe me, I think it's worth more than that because it's not about the money. Although money's nice and I do want everyone to be monetized, it's about the connection to people, because what we need at the end of the day is support and love.
I love it. I love the it's not about the money, it's about the connections. And you're 1,000,000% right. Or should I say 1,000,000,000% right?
Yeah, it's quite amazing world. So thank you for allowing me to share. I love what I do, and it makes me super happy. Now we get to hear about Hunter, who I'm super excited to talk about here. So Hunter, he's a man whose life is really a testament to resilience, determination, my favorite words. He was raised by a single mom, a mom who struggled with drugs and other challenges. He himself had struggled with drugs and gambling. He faced immense challenges from the start, but he refused to be defined by what was going on in his life and his circumstances. He chose discipline and honor. He joined the Marine Corps, learned invaluable lessons. We heard him already. Wait, he's got to tell me, is it hoorah, hoorah? You got to help me fix that.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. Learning invaluable lessons in integrity, perseverance. And after service, he conquered the real estate world. What a beautiful world to be in. Skyrocketed to the top 1% of agents in the US, building a significant investment portfolio by his mid 20s. Amazing. And then by 26, he lost millions. Down here, shocking discovery then now of meeting his biological dad. His life already was marked by divorce, fatherhood, legal battles, overcoming alcoholism, and now this new layer of complexity. And despite losing millions and facing that heartbreak through his life, all these challenges, his journey is a tale of survival. He overcame this beautiful world, this powerful narrative that he has now of triumph with this undeniable, wonderful mindset. He's inspiring and a vivid reminder that no matter the odds, success is always within reach. So thank you so much for being here, Hunter.
I love it. Thank you so much. I love it. Yes, that is me. That's me in a nutshell right there. Yeah. So I'm real big on mindset now, and obviously we talked about the biological thing. So a few years back, that's when my whole life kind of changed, and I kind of sat there and I'm like, okay, if my whole life was a lie, who am I, right? And I went through a little isolation period where I really stared that man in the mirror, and I became really honest with myself, right? Because self mastery depends on self honesty. If we're not going to be honest with ourselves, we're going to continue to move through life with those lies, and we'll never fix them, right? So at that point in my life, I really just determined that, look, everything is my fault, right? I'm going to take full responsibility for everything that's happened in my life. That way I can become the solution, right? Because once you put the blame on somebody else, then you give them the power, right? And you can't be the solution anymore. So that's kind of when my life hit a pivotal point, and I became obsessed with mindset and self mastery. And now every day I just work on getting a little bit better, 1% better every single day. So that's what I'm on. That's my mission right now, and I just want to help as many people out there. So that's what's going on in my life right now.
Hunter, when you look back at your experiences, and how do you experience them now differently? When you think of something that was heartbreak or difficult, what words would you use instead?
Well, proper perspective produces purpose to your pain. That's the way I like to look at it. It's look, we all go through trials and tribulations. We all face adversity, and you can either look back on those ways in a way that makes you bitter, or it makes you better. And it's your perspective on how you look back on things that happened to you that will determine that.
Have you talked to people sometimes who compare themselves to you and say, well, I didn't have trauma like that, therefore they dismiss that was troublesome for them is a trauma? And what do you say to them?
Well, we can always find trauma. I mean, everyone, deals with everything differently, but no matter what, we're human. We've all gone through things. We all, might deal with things differently, but we've all faced trauma that we can use proper perspective on to look back and say, look, hey, I overcame this. This is what I learned from this, and this is what I can use today to move forward to get better.
Well, thank you for that, because I know, sometimes people don't see that, whether you were upset because, your brother got piano lessons and you didn't, might have been your trauma. It doesn't mean it's less than, something
Yes.
else bigger. So, Hunter, what are the things that you took from the military that really still streamline your life today?
Discipline. I mean, it's the small things, like the habits make a man. If you guys have never read Atomic Habits, highly recommend that book.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, habits are everything, and it's those small little wins that stack up on a daily basis that create, the man I am today. And it's the little stuff. So in the Marine Corps, every morning you'd wake up at like 4 a.m. and we'd stand on a line and fold our towel. And at the time, it was just the most, dumbest thing, for lack of a better word. I couldn't understand why we did it, right? But fast forward now, and it's just those little things that we do, and keeping those little promises to ourselves. So when I say I'm going to do something, I do it, right? And that's what builds my self-confidence on the daily. And it's those small things, right? I feel like success, we're always trying to go huge, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm big into marketing. I'm big into everything. But honestly, the most success I've had is from subtracting things, right? Taking things away and working on the little small things that really add up to who I am now.
Beautiful. What kind of modalities and stuff do you incorporate with your clients and stuff with your mindset?
You name it. I talk a lot about conscience congruency. So I'm real big on that. Being aligned with your true self. Well, first you got to figure out who your true self is, right? And that comes from that real deep one-on-one talk with you, right? With yourself, right? And then painting that picture, right? I have them create the man, and on the left side you write down all the things that you don't like about yourself or the habits that you don't like, and then on the right side you write down, what traits you would want this undeniable man to have and to be like. And then you just start slowly working on that every single day, right? So being aligned with your true self is everything to me.
Absolutely amazing. What can we expect to see 5 years from now from you? What's your big picture in the future?
You'll see me everywhere. So just expect to see me, my face. Don't forget this face, because I won't allow you to forget it. So you're going to see me everywhere. I'm working on my book now. Obviously, I want to be on some stages and just get the message out there and help as many people, right? And a lot of people that I help are at rock bottom, right? And they look at it in a negative way. Actually, I'll share a quick little story. Last week, somebody called me who was wanting to end his life, right? And he was telling me all the bad things going on in his life and how, he's just sick of it. He's sick and tired. And I stopped him and I'm just like, look, this is rock bottom. I said, you can change the narrative of your story right here. This is the best place you could ever be in right now. Okay. Think about all this pain and all this stuff you're going through. Imagine how many people are in the world out there going through that, right? If you can overcome this right now in your life and you can go out there and then help them overcome that, look at the impact you could have on the world. Okay. So that's just kind of where I'm at in my life. So if I can, use stages and platforms to get more messages out there, that's what I'm going to do. So if I can help somebody, that's where you'll see me in 5 years.
So I want you to do me a favor. Take your hat and tip it up a little bit, because you've got this beautiful face that we're going to see all over the world. I want to see your eyes.
There you go.
So Hunter Potter, I know Instagram is your thing. What do you love about Instagram as your way to reach out to people?
You can just reach people, right? You never know who's watching you or who you can reach. So I just like the fact that I can reach anybody in the world, right? So
advice that you would give yourself if you were 5?
Well, I have a 6-year-old. So I do give him daily advice, and it's right now in his life, he can't really comprehend too much stuff, but I try to get him fitness, right? Just every day he has to do push-ups, and he calls me every night while he's doing his push-ups. But taking care of yourself is everything. Obviously he's very big into fitness as well. And that's where it all started with me, right? It all started with fitness first. I had to, I told myself I was going to wake up at this time and go to the gym. That was the very first promise I made, and it all stemmed from that. So if I had to tell myself something at 5 years old, it would just be, take care of your body right now.
I was just thinking, I saw an article about somebody who had a chip put in their mind to overcome addiction. And, with us all being very aware of mindset here, us 4, and the people who are listening to us are following it as well. What are your thoughts about that idea that, you can flip a switch with your voice or your other techniques without this surgical implant,
Yeah, I would never implant something in my brain, because it's already right here. We all already have the power to turn that switch on, right? But you have to want it, okay? Because there's a point in my life where, going through a divorce, it was caused by alcohol. And that person wanted me to quit drinking so bad, right? And I was trying to do it for them, but it never worked out until I really wanted to do it for myself, right? The only way you're ever going to change is if you truly want to change.
Lovely. Seafood, did you want to jump in?
Wow, powerful stuff. And the fact that you are looking to make a change for everyone. I also want to, you did say something that captured me, because I am a habit guy myself, right? And I know that probably every day we run our day based on 40 probably percent of the things that we do every day is based on habits. And when we consider, you did say one thing that kind of caught me, and you said, a habit makes a man. And I want to rephrase that, because a habit can also make a woman. But a
Yes.
habit, if we go deeper, can make a person. Right? So your bad habits will define who you are, and the kind of people you hang around with. And so they say 5 people that you associate with will help either bring you down or bring you up. So thank you for sharing that part, because I believe that we
Yeah.
make a choice every day. And you're helping people make better choices. And the fact that you spoke to this gentleman and you said you're in the best place. And the thing that people may not realize, but he did the most important thing that people forget to do. Reach out and ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
If you were not there, would he have ended his life? If he did not reach out and say, you know what? I do want to do this thing, but I know I need to talk to Hunter, see what he has to say. And you said the right thing. So thank you for doing that,
Yes.
I'd like to jump in here. I have a nonprofit called the Keep Smiling Movement, and we're a mental and dental health organization, because when you smile, you change the neuroplasticity of your brain, and it's like a dose of hope. The neurotransmitters, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. But what we have become without expecting it is during COVID, I kept a tally, because I used to work on a suicide hotline when I was a teenager, by the way. Can you believe that they allowed us to do that? I was 16 years old and worked on a suicide hotline. Anyhow,
Congratulations.
I made a tally for every time that during COVID that someone told me a date and a weapon of choice. Like they were so committed that it was going to have happened. And most of these stories I heard after the fact, that they had said, hey, I've been wanting to tell you this. And there were 43 different stories that I had all the tallies. So that meant they were serious. Like they weren't thinking or contemplating, they were doing it, and something stopped them. And what stopped them was this resilience to live, where they had either talked to me or seen something about our movement, or was reminded of something or a meme that caused them to remember that they have that choice to step back into smiling, so they didn't continue to spiral up. They could get in movement to, spiral down, get in movement to spiral back up. And what I'm hearing through all of you is that this resilience in your own stories, that you didn't have to be on rock bottom necessarily, but that we all have these wave moments where we have to spiral back up. And I'm so excited, Hunter, that you were able to be there for someone, because there's sometimes I think if all we ever did was save one person's life, maybe that's all we were supposed to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. I'm listening to these stories, and wow, I mean, for all of us, how well, and I'm sure, Seafood, this is why you put the 4 of us together here, just in a lot of our commonality. But I think, so first of all, fight or flight. I'm a fighter, by the way. So no martial arts, but I'm a fighter. Hockey player, good Canadian girl, hockey player. But what I think about too, and we talk about resilience, I sign a majority of my social media posts with 2 hashtags. One is unstoppable, and that nothing is going to prevent me from achieving the goal or objective that I've set for myself. Challenge and adversity is going to come. But the second hashtag is no excuse, no excuses. And I'm going to be unstoppable because I have choice in terms of how I am going to respond to the challenge, adversity, the trauma that's, comes my way. Yes, I'm going to be deeply emotional and have an emotion initially, but then I'm going to make a choice in terms of how I move forward. And I'll tell people too, and I talk about resilience, it's one foot in front of the other. And sometimes it's a step back, and that's okay too. But one foot in front of the other is progress towards that journey. So I love just listening to everyone's stories and lessons here.
Yeah, it's very interesting that we are all somewhat connected because we all know about intentions. We all know that our words are going to make a difference, not only in our own lives, because the first thing that we do in the morning, we have a conversation, don't we? It might not be out loud and that might be heard by anyone else, but we have that internal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the conversation is, do I need coffee? Right? That's not my conversation. I'm Colombian, by the way, but that's not my conversation. My conversation is with God because I'm asking to be given the power to first is gratitude. Thank you for letting me wake up today. But then it's the conversation of thank you for giving me the gifts that you've given me so that I can share them with other people, so that I can make an impact, so that I can make a difference in someone else's lives, because it's not about my life. I used to think that's when we were selfish and I was selfish. I used to think it was about me. But the deeper I went into it, it's not about me. It's about how I can affect other people so that we can all together have an amazing life. So thank you all for being here. I mean, it's touched me. I mean, Hunter, the fact that you were there to help somebody, that's huge, my friend. That's huge. We don't always get the opportunity, and I'm gonna use this 1 minute to just tell everybody that that's powerful. Keep smiling. But here's the thing: we never know who's having that internal struggle. Is today my last day? Am I gonna do it today? So they may be smiling, they may be super happy. I think we lost Hunter. I hope he comes back. Yeah, he's back. Sorry, we lost you for a sec. So it's so important for all of us to understand that even if somebody looks happy, even if they are smiling, sometimes we need to say, "What's going on with you? Tell me." So having that conversation, showing love when we speak to someone, and not just in passing, but for real. I knew a friend of mine, a celebrity, took his own life. And I had seen him just not too long before he took his life. And you would never know that he was in pain, ever, because he was the most giving guy, the most happiest guy you ever saw. And he'd always take interest in other people. But he had that internal struggle that he'd lost. And it's a shame. But take this minute to reach out to people and say, hey, I'm thinking about it. I just wanted to share that with you guys. You're muted, by the way. So while you are muted, I'm going to take this opportunity to share with you Jose's message for you guys.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Yeah, Jose is a powerhouse for sure. And Dr. Andrea, so much gratitude that I have in my heart. And it really means a lot that you took the time to be here with us. I want to open it up to any questions that we have for one another, or any comments that you want to just share with anybody.
I'll start real quick just because I'm also Jose's publicist and consultant, and we have an event coming up in May. So those of you who said you want to be out there and see Hunter, if you want to see people and be out there in the world, Victoria, we'd love to have you come as well. We're going to have a big event over Cinco de Mayo weekend for the Connected Leaders Academy Summit. So please come and join us. It'll be a lot of beautiful networking and connected leaders coming together.
For sure. I know I'm going to be there, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll get to meet. We'll be in person. That'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Victoria, you should come. I mean, I know you're in Canada, but hey.
Miami.
No, I'm in Miami. I'm a
you're in Miami
Canadian
now.
who's escaped the cold by living in Miami.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
What would you say was, if you could say, what was your one takeaway from today's show?
I've known, like, I'm not alone in, some of the challenges and adversity that I've had, and my desire to help others, like each and every one of us around the table. And I think there's such greatness that we can bring. And I'd encourage others to share so boldly themselves as well, to create safe spaces for others to share their stories, and to maybe it's that reach out for help as well. And Andrea, I'm the only one who has my camera mirrored. So when you said turn right, it looked like I was going the opposite direction. That whole like limiting belief as well. And just that little exercise I think is great. And maybe I'll use that in the future.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do that. I wanted to invite people too. I do have a class called Find and Fulfill Your Destiny. So it's just a little, jump start for people to be able to learn some of these techniques. I'm doing it for free. So if you just go to the redcarpetconnection.com and go to my free gift page, it'll be up there. And so it varies. The gifts change. So just show up. And if there was something I mentioned on here and you don't see it, reach out to us and say, hey, you said, and we'll fulfill it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Do me a favor, ladies, stay on for another second. We're going to just say goodbye to everybody. Everybody, thank you so much. Remember, we're on usually every 2 weeks, so come back and share and learn. I learn every time. I think I do this show for selfish reasons, because I learn from every coach who's on here. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Have yourself an exceptional day. Take care.